The villagers gave me 5 rules before I stayed the night. Don't whistle after dark. Don't answer if someone calls your name. Keep your feet off the floor after midnight. If you hear 3 knocks on the back door, ignore them. And whatever happens, don't look at the banyan tree after 2 a.m. I broke one of those rules. At exactly 12:43 a.m., someone whispered my name outside the house. Daniel. The voice was soft. Too soft. Like someone was standing just outside the window, trying not to wake the others. I froze. The candle beside my bed flickered against the wooden wall. Rain tapped gently on the roof. The air smelled like damp soil, old wood, and incense. Then the voice came again. Daniel. This time, it sounded closer. And that was when my blood went cold. Because I recognized the voice. It sounded exactly like my older brother. My brother had been dead for 4 years. From the next room, the old woman whispered sharply, "Don't answer it." Her voice wasn't calm anymore. It was shaking. I sat there in the dark, staring at the window, unable to move. Outside, the village was silent. No insects, no dogs, no wind. Just that voice. Waiting. I had arrived in the village that afternoon. It was somewhere in the mountains of northern Vietnam, hidden behind miles of muddy roads and bamboo forest. I had been traveling for months, filming strange folklore stories for my YouTube channel. Most of them were harmless. River ghosts, old temple legends, stories grandmothers told children so they wouldn't wander too far after dark. But this village felt different from the moment I entered it. Nobody greeted me. Nobody smiled. The people just watched. At the center of the village stood a massive banyan tree, its roots twisted out of the ground like black veins. Red cloth strips hung from its branches. At the base, there were old incense bowls, cracked offerings, and faded paper talismans soaked by rain. No one walked near it, not even the children. When I raised my camera to film the tree, an old man grabbed my wrist. "Don't point that thing at the tree after sunset," he said. I asked him why. He didn't answer. He just looked toward the tree, then walked away. By evening, the rain became too heavy for me to leave. That was when Mrs. Leon offered me a place to sleep. She was an old woman who lived alone near the edge of the village. Her house was small, built from dark wood, with a low roof and a dirt yard behind it. During dinner, she barely spoke. But I noticed something strange. As soon as the sun disappeared behind the mountains, every door in the village closed. Every window was locked. Every light went out. By 8 p.m., the whole village looked abandoned. That was when Mrs. Leanne gave me the rules. At first, I almost laughed. No whistling. No answering voices. No looking at the banyan tree after 2 a.m. It sounded ridiculous. But she didn't smile. Before I went to sleep, she placed a candle beside my bed and said, "If it goes out after midnight, don't relight it." I should have asked more questions. Instead, I told myself it was just superstition. That was my first mistake. My second mistake was whistling. While unpacking my bag, I quietly whistled a tune without thinking. Mrs. Leon heard it. She turned toward me so fast I stopped immediately. Her face had gone pale. "You whistled?" I laughed nervously. "Sorry, habit." She stared at me for a long time. Then she locked the front door. Then the back door. Then every window. And after that, she didn't say another word. Now, at 12:43 a.m., I understood why. "Daniel," the voice whispered again. Outside the window. My brother's voice. Then came the knocking. 3 slow knocks. Knock. 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 Not at the front door. The back door. Exactly like the rule. Mrs. Leon stopped whispering her prayer. The candle flame bent sideways, though there was no wind. Then the knocks came again. Knock. 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 Louder. Slower. Like whoever was outside knew we were listening. Something began dragging itself around the house. Wet footsteps, scraping mud, slow circles. I wanted to get up. I wanted to look. But Mrs. Lyon hissed from the other room. "Keep your feet off the floor." I pulled my legs back onto the bed. Then the candle went out. The room disappeared into darkness. For a few seconds, there was nothing. Then, a whistle. One long note. Low, almost playful, right outside the window. Then my brother's voice returned, this time crying. "Daniel, please let me in." I felt tears fill my eyes. It sounded exactly like him. The same broken voice, the same breathless panic. For one terrible second, I almost answered. Then Mrs. Lyon screamed, "It is not him!" The crying stopped instantly. The silence after that was worse. Then something tapped the window. Tap. Tap. Tap! I turned before I could stop myself. Outside stood a woman in white. Her long black hair covered her face. Rainwater dripped from her clothes. She stood completely still, inches from the glass. Then slowly, she lifted her head. There was no face beneath the hair, only darkness. A hollow black shape where her face should have been. I stumbled backward and fell from the bed. The second my feet hit the floor, something slammed against the wooden boards from underneath. The entire house shook. I scrambled back onto the bed as scratching erupted beneath me. Not one hand, dozens, dragging beneath the floor. Then the whispering started, hundreds of voices under the house, all whispering my name. Daniel. 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 The walls creaked. The floor trembled. The whispering grew louder and louder until it almost became screaming. Then suddenly, everything stopped. Mrs. Lyon relit the candle with shaking hands. Her face looked older than before. "They know you saw them," she whispered. "What are they?" I asked. She looked toward the window, toward the banyan tree. "Long ago, people who died violently were tied to that tree before burial," she said. "The villagers believed it would keep their spirits from wandering." She swallowed. "But some spirits don't want to be kept." Rain hit the roof harder. "They imitate the voices of the dead," she continued. "They call to you. They beg. They knock. Why? To make you invite them in." I didn't sleep again that night. At sunrise, everything looked normal. Children played in the street. Roosters crowed. Smoke rose from kitchen fires. The banyan tree stood quietly in the center of the village. Before I left, Mrs. Lyon walked me to the road. She looked afraid to stand near me. "They only need you to notice them once," she said. "What does that mean?" She didn't answer. She only closed the gate. 3 nights later, back in Hanoi, I woke up at exactly 12:43 a.m. Someone was whistling outside my apartment. I lived on the 7th floor. There was no balcony. I opened my eyes and stared at the window. Nothing was there. But when I turned on the light, there were wet footprints on my floor. They led from the window to my bedroom door. After that, it happened every night. At 12:43 a.m., I heard my name, sometimes outside the apartment, sometimes in the hallway, sometimes from inside the bathroom. Then the 3 knocks started. Knock, 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 always from somewhere different. The front door, the wall, the ceiling. One night, I set up my camera to record while I slept. The next morning, I watched the footage. For the first hour, nothing happened. Then at 12:43 a.m., the audio distorted. A whistle came through the speakers. Then the camera slowly lost focus. In the corner of the room, behind me, stood a dark figure. Tall, motionless, watching me sleep. I paused the footage, zoomed in. The figure had no face. I went back to the village the next day. But when I reached the mountains, the road was gone. Not blocked. Gone. I asked a man in a nearby town about the village. He stared at me strangely. "That village burned down 15 years ago," he said. I showed him a photo of Mrs. Lyon. His face turned pale. "That woman died in the fire." I felt my stomach drop. "No, I stayed in her house." The man stepped back. Then he said, "You should not have gone there after dark." That night, I checked all my footage, frame by frame. The village looked normal at first. The houses, the rain, Mrs. Lyon, the banyan tree. But then I noticed something. Nobody in the background had a face. Not the children. Not the old man who grabbed my camera. Not even Mrs. Lyon. Every face was blurred into darkness, except mine. Then I reached the final clip. It was footage of the banyan tree. I didn't remember filming it. The camera was pointed directly at the branches. Under the tree stood a crowd of people. Still, silent, faceless. And among them was someone holding a camera, wearing my jacket, my shoes, my backpack. I zoomed in. The figure slowly lifted its head. It had my face. I stopped breathing. Then, from somewhere behind me in my apartment, someone whistled. One long note. Low, almost playful. I turned around. Nothing was there. When I looked back at the screen, the figure beneath the banyan tree was gone. Only the crowd remained. Then my phone lit up. A new video had been uploaded to my channel. I hadn't uploaded anything. The title was Rules for Staying Overnight in a Vietnamese Village. The thumbnail showed me standing under the banyan tree, smiling. But I was sitting in my apartment, watching it happen. The video had already been live for 12 minutes. I opened it. The first line was my voice, but I had never recorded it. The villagers gave me 5 rules before I stayed the night. Behind me, inside the apartment, the floorboards creaked. Then came 3 knocks. Not from the door, from inside the walls. Knock, knock, knock. And finally, I understood. The thing didn't follow me home. Something came home pretending to be me.